Congratulations are in order for Mr. President Donald Trump. From SCNR.com, Trump announces his campaign has raised almost $400 million since guilty verdict in New York case. More campaign funds were given to this campaign than any campaign, they think, in history. You got to love when Trump adds these qualifying statements to make his statement true. Because if he said more campaign funds were given to this campaign than any campaign in history, they're going to go fact check false. So he says they think. We don't know who they is. But, you know, there you go. Trump announced a jaw-dropping haul during a rally in Phoenix. Quote, I just went through a rigged trial in New York with a highly conflicted, and I mean highly conflicted judge, where there was no crime. It was made up, fabricated stuff, but they didn't want to bring the case. They could have brought the case 7 years ago. It's only when you run for office they bring the cases. Trump said that it was conveniently brought in the middle of his presidential campaign, where he's beating Biden by a lot. By the way, right after the announcement of this, more campaign funds were given to this campaign than any campaign they think in history. Almost $400 million. 400. That's amazing. I do think they're going to be including the $100 million pledge from Miriam Adelson. Yeah. I think it's fair to remove that from the equation. And then you're looking at just shy of $300 million in hard donations being given to Donald Trump. So the $100 million doesn't go directly to Trump. That's the issue. It's probably going to super PACs and things like this. But they did raise $141 million in direct contributions. This was previously reported. I think it is absolutely fair to say that since that last reporting, we're now going on just over around a week since the guilty verdict. Trump likely is at that number from smaller donors or from individual donors directly to his campaign. I don't care about the polls, ladies and gentlemen. Money talks, BS walks. The question is, does the money matter? Now, Trump launched, have you guys seen that swamp the vote thing?
No, but what is it?
Mail-in voting. Basically, the Republicans
finally getting on board.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Goodness.
And Trump's calling it too big to rig.
Okay, yeah.
And it's a great move. Whether you actually do anything or not, telling the Trump voters it's too big to rig now because we've got the mass removes the demoralization.
Yeah.
When Trump came out right after the 2020 election and said it was rigged, people didn't vote in Georgia, and then they gave the Senate to Democrats. There's videos of people outside polling stations saying, "What's the point of voting? I'm not going to vote. It's rigged." And then it's like, and then Warnock won, and Democrats got Senate.
I think it was a huge mistake by Republican strategists to encourage voting on election day. If you are able to vote in earlier, then you should, because weather could only screw you. Something new could always come up. And if those are the rules to play by, then play by the rules. So I think it's silly to do otherwise. I think they had a race in New York, too, where they had bad weather on election day. I don't know if that swung the race, but you never want that to even be a thought. So if you could get it done early, then play by the rules put forward. Don't put yourself in these arbitrary rules that the Democrats aren't playing by. I think it's silly. And yeah, to your point, Tim, I'm happy that you brought that up, because I think that did play a role in the runoff election after the fact, when the Republicans, this was right after the election where a lot of Republicans were saying it was stolen.
Yeah.
Also, they had Herschel Walker, so who knows if that was the right move per se. But
yeah, the Herschel Walker was not the right move, to be clear.
But either way, when you tell everybody it's rigged, a lot of people will stay home, and you are suppressing your own vote. Trump coming out now and saying we're doing the mail-in voting and it's become too big to rig. Now people are going to be like, oh, I better go out now because we're going to win. It's a weird thing, because you're scared that if you say we got this, then people don't show up. But if you say we can't win, people don't show up.
Yeah,
voter turnout is looking bad, by the way.
This is obviously a huge haul for the Trump campaign and all their super PACs. I'm sure Joe Biden's raising a ton of money. And yeah, money bears some influence on these campaigns, but I'm really questioning how much. Obviously, it's really good to raise a lot of money, better than not. But Trump is already president. I think both of these guys are at 99% name ID. I don't think there's anybody who doesn't have a formed opinion of Donald Trump or Joe Biden. So some more ads could help, but I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make.
It's not just ads, but if they actually put the money where they should with actual get out the vote
grassroots,
and back to the mail-in voting and making sure Republicans are actually doing these things, then the money really matters. And those are expensive things because they're people heavy.
The cynic in me just thinks, wow, it must be nice to be running these campaigns or being a third party that these people contract out to, because what do you think? Where do you think all this money is going to? It's going to those organizations. So hey, maybe we should open up a little, I don't know, campaign third party. Anyway,
I wonder how this will play out in the debate. Honestly, because I imagine it comes up. Trump's going to bring it up if CNN doesn't. He's going to say, a week after this guilty verdict, we brought in $400 million. What does that say about how the American people feel? What is Biden? How does Biden respond to that? It's just one guy.
Yeah. How does Biden respond to Trump calling his son a crackhead too? It's like,
well, I mean, he is.
yeah. But how does Biden respond is the question. Because he's currently going through his case, the gun charge case, and then I feel like there's also the tax evasion case. So I hear Biden reportedly talks to Hunter every day. So I wonder if while he talks to him on the phone, he sounds a little bit more pepped up.
Hunter's a wild dude.
He really is.
Isn't it funny how like Hunter really does personify the left and Trump Jr. really does personify the right? Like Trump Jr. is this regular kind of dude. He's like a hardworking guy. His dad's rich and he's like, I always say this, like he's a plain guy. I no disrespect. I mean, as a compliment, he's just like Don Jr.'s just a guy. He's like a regular dude. You hung out with him, you wouldn't realize he was the son of Trump, the billionaire, and then you see Hunter, and it's like he personifies leftist degeneracy so well.
Hunter Biden's what all the anti-Trump people wish his children were, because if any of Trump's kids, which he has many more than Joe Biden does, were any sort of degenerates similar in any way to Hunter Biden, everybody would be all over them with no sympathy. Hunter Biden's getting a good amount of sympathy from Democrats, but I don't think if Don Jr. was a crackhead, he'd get any benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
well, of course.
Certainly.
I feel
wall-to-wall coverage.
If you walked into like an In-N-Out and Don Jr. was there ordering like a burger with animal-style fries or whatever, no one would know. Like no one would think twice. I mean, some people might recognize him, but I mean, like just in general, outside of his notoriety. It's just some dude ordering a burger. But Hunter Biden was there. His teeth are all messed. Like, he got him fixed, obviously. But a guy like that, the scarf, the sunglasses, he's smoking. He was apparently smoking crack in public.
Yeah, like his gun falls out of his pocket on the floor. He has to pick it up, put it back.
He's an everyday crackhead smoking crack in public. That's how
she described him, right? Smoking crack in public. That's what the testimony was. Was that the testimony?
I believe from his ex-wife. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, that's a guy you're like, kid, stay away from that man. You know what I mean?
How does the pro-gun people in us feel about him getting this as a gun charge for lying about not being a drug addict? I think that's what this gun charge stemmed from, at least. He said he wasn't addicted, wherein it was like the questionnaire to get a firearm.
I think he should not be charged for it. I think it is wrong that he's being charged. The Constitution does not say.
I agree.
Yeah.
The Second Amendment says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It doesn't say unless you're imbibing certain substances the government has deemed untoward. I don't like the idea that he's smoking crack and buying a gun. Don't get me wrong. I think if you were under the influence of crack at the time you are wielding a weapon, you should be charged, arrested, and your gun taken from you through due process. And after due process, we can say you have surrendered your right to keep and bear arms. I didn't used to think this, but it was our good viewers who enlightened me. When I said, I don't understand why felons don't get to have guns. You did your time. And we had a super chat say, your rights can be curtailed through due process. That's the point. You have freedom of speech. You have freedom of movement. You have freedom of assembly. But if you commit a crime, we will lock you in a box. Your rights can only be deprived if you get due process. That's a fair point. So if Hunter Biden is a crackhead and he buys a gun, I have no problem. He should be allowed to. However, and what I'm saying is you shouldn't bar someone from buying a gun just because they're a user of a substance that is illegal. That's a different crime. If they are guilty of the crime of possession and substance abuse and things, then we can process charge. And should we find them guilty, then you take their guns away. So there is an interesting a thin line here that's hard to know where the limit is. It is illegal to smoke crack, to buy crack, to possess crack. So if you're a crackhead, why should you be allowed to own a gun? Fair point. But if he was not inebriated at the time, I believe he would have to be charged and convicted for the crime of possessing, distributing, smoking, or otherwise, whatever the crime may be. Then he no longer can have a gun. And now, if he was wielding a gun while on crack, I think that's a very serious felony offense, and he should get some serious prison time.
That would be such a good headline. Principled gun rights supporter Tim Pool condemns gun charges against Hunter Biden.
It is an interesting argument, because if the argument is you can lose your right to keep and bear arms through due process, in whatever form that takes, then it's fair to say Hunter Biden, the question on the form was, are you an active committer of felonies? Because if you are not allowed to have a gun. The problem I have with that is it's preemptive. You've not yet been proven convicted of a crime for which you've gone through the process that we can deprive you of your rights.
Maybe Hunter Biden's just a libertarian after all. Tax evasion, smokes crack, loves guns. He should have spoken at the Libertarian National Convention.
I was about to say, based
not
on
RFK, not Trump.
They should have invited him. Yeah, what were they thinking?
Dates his brother's ex-wife.
And he cheered for him.
Hunter Biden.
I was about to say,
absolutely have cheered for him.
Yeah, based on the last convention, I think most libertarians are smoking crack at this point.
That'd be a nice pivot by Hunter Biden. Like, yeah, fuck it.
No,
a libertarian now.
The Mises Caucus Ron Paul libertarians have taken over the party, and they are of sound mind, but not of strong enough will to have prevented what happened at the convention. So
yeah, it's pretty embarrassing if you're a libertarian what happened at the convention, and honestly, what goes on with so much. And I'm very libertarian leaning. Like a lot of times I'll tell people I'm a very libertarian Republican in a lot of ways, but these people are making me not want to say that anymore because I don't know that people will understand what it means.
Guys don't want to say it.
You're right. That's what I'm saying. You're like,
I say we got him. We got him. Those Libertarian Party guys are voting for Trump now.
Yep.
Jeremy Kaufman, he held up a sign saying MAGA equals socialists at the convention. Then they nominate Chase Oliver, who's woke, and he was like, and then he tweets out, "I'm voting Trump." Like, dude,
I think it shows how vapid the sign is. Then, I mean, if he thinks Trump's a socialist, now he's going to be voting for him after that, and I don't know. It's just,
I think
all the libertarians are ridiculous in my opinion.
I think it shows priority. I think it shows priority. If your concern with Trump is that, yes, you like that he was somewhat anti-war, you like that he is for some things you like, but ultimately you think the bad outweighs the good, then your attitude is, I'm not voting for that guy. It's socialism. I mean, it's not, but they think government programs and things like that are. This just means that Jeremy views the wokeness as a greater or existential threat, and Donald Trump is at least resisting an existential threat. So there you go.
Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe, and we'll see you all there.